Welcome to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, the podcast that cuts through the rubbish to explore the world of neurodiversity. I'm your host, Nic King.
And I'm your host, Kate Fox. And together we're here to explore, understand and celebrate being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. From ADHD and autism to dyslexia and other quirky brains, we talk about it all.
And go off on tangents. So whether you're neurodivergent, love someone who is, or you're just curious about neurodivergent minds, you are in the right place.
Let's get ready to juggle some words and maybe even a few chainsaws, metaphorically, of course.
Hello and welcome back to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws. And today we're going to be talking about going out of your comfort zone, because our Kate Fox has indeed gone out of their comfort zone this week.
I have indeed. I have gone all the way to Portugal out of my comfort zone.
That is quite a long way out of your comfort zone.
It really is. I cannot tell you the number of miles because that is beyond my scarce geographical knowledge, but it is geographically and I was going to say emotionally. I'm not sure emotionally. Yeah, emotionally, cognitively, somewhat out of my comfort zone. So I'm very glad that we're actually going to talk about it for the next, not just about me being in Portugal, but the wider topic for the next 28 minutes or so.
And why did you feel you needed to go out of your comfort zone this week? Why are you outside of it?
Yeah, because so part of it, I suppose, is a work reason, and I am far more likely to go outside of my comfort zone if I'm kind of justifying it as work. Basically, I have a deadline for my next poetry book, and the deadline is the end of March, and I need to write more poems, both for the book and the show, actually, the Bigger on the Inside show, my Doctor Who and neurodiversity show where we met, Nick.
Fabulous.
And it was indeed. And yeah, I need to get those poems done. And essentially, I struggled with this because I could do it at home. I could write at home. You know, I have a home office. There's only me who lives at home. But I am so often, well, two reasons. I'm often interrupted, and it's interruptions that I might want. You know, it's a friend going, oh, let's go for a coffee. It's, oh, let's have a catch up. It's, oh, go to the Buddhist class, whatever it is. And it's really hard to get into the attention tunnel, which I've written a poem about, which I'll share at the end of this podcast. And also, a very practical reason. When I write, I know that I write better. I mean, I could justify having a private pool by what I'm about to say, but I basically do write. I couldn't afford one, but I could justify one. I write better if I can swim in between, essentially.
Ooh, bit of proprioception.
Absolutely. And for me, you know, walking or jogging on a beautiful but cold colour-coded prom just is not the same.
No.
And in fact, it's often a little bit painful. So water, being surrounded by water. So with this, I can write, I can then swim, I can then go for a wander. I'm kind of away from everything pretty much. But then that makes so...
And people are less inclined to contact you when they think you're on holiday. And I'm doing air quotes around holiday.
Yeah,
because I understand you're not on holiday, but like
it's become a whole thing. Actually,
you're away.
Holiday versus not holiday, because some people really are treating it as. But you're right. At least they're less likely to contact you if you're on holiday.
Yeah.
So I have had a few interruptions to the attention tunnel, and this one, us recording the podcast, was very deliberate. I knew that would be an interruption and a positive interruption, but it would fit inside the attention tunnel.
And still classes as work.
And still classes of work, exactly. But it is the comfort zone thing. Sorry, I feel like I've given the longest answer in the world. The comfort zone thing for me, basically, I love going on little trips for work. It's one of my great pleasures to have 1 or 2 nights away, to spend time in a different place, a different town. It really gives me a dopamine hit. But something I do not do is go away from home for, I really feel it if it's 5 nights, and any more than that, I can't remember the last time when I did that. It was probably when I was in my 20s and thought that package holidays were a good idea for an autistic woman. No, they're not. Well, they might be for some, but they weren't for me. So this is, tonight will be night 6. And actually, because I've made a little home from home, and I think that is the key, I am doing well. But I do, and I want to just moot this, and I don't know what you'll think of this, Nic, because I know you've done a very different thing to go out of your comfort zone yesterday. Something about having, and I observed someone at the Glastonbury Festival who books acts. Her son was at that time undiagnosed autistic when I went last summer. He's now been diagnosed. He's 8, and he had made himself a little den, and his little den was one of those wheelie trolleys that the middle class parents at festivals take their kids around in, and their wellies, and
I totally have one of those.
Do you have one of those? Oh, yes, I did out it.
Yeah, I have to. Okay, yes, trolley.
Trolley. And he made a little den. Because he also had a home backstage, and he was okay. I did not have a home at the Glastonbury Festival. And it was just
awful.
Nightmare of hell. So, yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking so much.
Do you know what's interesting, though? You have given a very long answer, and longer than you normally do, but I think that's actually because you are currently deeply focused in being monotropic. And you have just been very monotropic within this conversation. So I think actually it's obviously working.
Yeah, well, and that's why I've said to you, because we had a plan, didn't we, to record 2 podcasts. And I said,
secrets that we record them together.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we absolutely never do.
Live. Yeah, this is we're live, we're not really live. And I knew that my brain, it was willing to come out of the attention tunnel for half an hour to talk about being in the attention tunnel. And that's it. It's all I've got.
Absolutely. And that's always fine. And it is always fine. What you said something about have you brought comforts from home? For those who are watching on
Well, oh yeah.
For those who are able to watch, Kate is currently sitting with a scarf above her head because the sound was awful before we did that.
Yes, I sounded like I was in a toilet because, of course, it's a typical holiday apartment. It's all echoey floors and hard walls and stuff. So I'm literally sat in my own attention tunnel, which is a rainbowy scarf, which is something, this is a good item to pick on. It's not something I would usually think to bring away with me, a scarf. But I remembered and realised how I struggle in very white or beige rooms. And I was like, I might need something that's not white or beige. And it's worked. I kind of hang it up and it's a splash of colour in the right place. Fortunately, there is a light bulb that changes colours. One of those ones where you have a little remote and it can be any colour. So that's already good. I am not... It's a classic situation of needs cancelling each other out. I hate carrying big bags around and packing loads of things. Yeah. But I also did think I would so I've brought my home comfort in my medium-sized rucksack for 2 weeks. Medium-sized rucksack, that's all I've got, on a tote bag, I know. Is a bag of Marks and Sparks chai tea bags. Classic Brit abroad thing, isn't it, really?
I think, we're accusing me of being middle class a second.
No, it's not even like food tea, it's chai tea from Marks and Sparks. And then a little candle and a Buddhist book, because I'm doing my Buddhist meditation by Zoom which is nice actually, just on Sunday and Monday nights.
Nice.
That's when I'm willing to come out of the attention tunnel for that, because you sort of go into a weird other attention tunnel. But that's it. Not many home comforts. I've had to kind of reconcile the fact that they're in my mind, these comforts, if you know what I mean. As in, there are times in my life, probably most times up till now, where I would have struggled a lot more mentally than I am with the whole I'm not at home and I can't easily get home thing.
I'm very much a sort of a home bird. I do like, and you know how you talked about packing light? I can't pack.
Oh, really?
Light. No.
So what do you need to have with you?
Everything. I've recently changed my car, and I genuinely had a moment where I thought, you know how you get those people who like pack up your house so you can move house? I was like, why is there not that service for my car? Because it had that much like stuff in it, like water and food and plasters. I can remember one day we ended up changing what we were doing and going somewhere else. And my husband was like, we can't go there. We haven't got the stuff. I'm like, I've got a wetsuit back there. I've got a swimming costume. I've got a towel. I've got a change of clothes for the other one. We've got food. We've got water. Like, I think there's a snow shovel in there. Everything.
Yeah. And it is a classic. I do feel like I sort of go, and actually I'm going to say this ties interestingly with what can be expected of women anyway, and I'm going to say mothers, the idea that there might be a bag with everything in it, and therefore that is a way possibly whereby neurodivergent people might happily pass because, oh, I have a bag with everything in it, that's expected, but that everything is the level of everything that you're talking about.
Yeah, and like if we go on holiday, and like we tend as a rule to go self-catering if we're going any more than 2 nights, like I will take my favorite knife.
Really?
Yeah, and or possibly a pan and possibly the slow cooker if we're going for longer. And yeah, like I'm essentially moving out.
Yeah,
and taking the things.
And I am, in one way, because I have I think we've talked about this before, I have such a troubled relationship with stuff and things and having things and the clutter of things, much as I would love the things. So I am all simultaneously in this kind of very sparse holiday apartment, but that beautifully has a little terrace and the little pool outside that no one else but me is using. Literally no one else. It's like my own pool. It's sparse, but I am free. I'm liberated from stuff. So both these. So tell me, just to get me out of my attention for a moment, if I can, what have you done that has taken you out of your comfort zone, and how was it?
So I suppose inspired by said podcast, I thought, because I don't do a lot of going out of my comfort zone, mainly because I have currently not got a lot of spoons to spare for going out of comfort zones, but we'll come back to that in a second maybe. I went to the Sarah Millican gig in Newcastle last night at the City Hall. Now, I don't go to the City Hall. I'd seen a preview at the stand, and I go to the stand, and I know how the stand works, and I know where I sit, and I sit in the same place every time. And I know how it works there. But I haven't been to the City Hall in possibly decades. And yeah, out of my comfort zone, and I went on my own, and I don't tend, because there was only like a single ticket left, and because I hadn't bought tickets early because I'd seen the preview and I felt like I'd seen it like very close up because it was the stand. And then I was like, oh, I actually really want to go see it again. So, and then there was a seat at the front came up, which was part of the thing as well, because I think I've mentioned before that if I can't see people in front of me, I can forget they're behind me. So like it being very well, it was row A, so it was at the front. So that helped. But yeah, place that I hadn't been, and yeah, on my Todd.
So how did it actually feel? Did you get any kind of spikes of panic?
Yeah. Oh, beforehand. So on the afternoon, I was a bit easily triggered into being snappy. It is also currently the school holidays here, so there's a vibe as well. Um, there are more humans in my house than usual. So I was a bit sort of like anxious, but actually when I got there and got in the queue, which was around the block, that sort of felt all right from there. I felt like it's a bit British, isn't it? You know what you're doing in a queue.
Exactly. And you know that at the end of the queue, you're going to be directed to somewhere. It's not kind of free for all, is it? You're not in a
No.
crowd, you're in a contained line of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I am so beyond the age where I could do any sort of gig that was standing anymore.
Oh,
Like,
no.
no,
No, I did.
no.
I performed a gig at the Engine Room in North Shields, and it was funny because there were some women in their 50s, I would say, and they'd obviously been before because it is a standing room only gig, and they'd brought those
Chairs.
deck chairs, and it was
Awesome.
really nice. It was like, again, it felt like the most Radio 4 thing ever, an audience in camp chairs watching the poet. It was very satisfying. But back to the
The
yeah,
spoons thing.
yeah, go
How
on. So
much energy, physical, mental, emotional, social, communicative energy does it take for you to feel like you can go out of your comfort zone? Because there's some points where I often talk about how that I live very close to being in a spoon deficit. And I'm very, very careful where I spend my spoons outside of my household because they like I've got I've got one young child left, but like there is a lot of spoons to spend within my home, on my business and on myself and on my family. And I don't often have excessive spoons to spare to be going out of my comfort zone. So there is an element there where you need a sort of a surplus or banked level of resources to be able to. And I mean, obviously, a level of like privilege and so on and so forth to be in Portugal, but like maybe not big comfort zone things. But no, I think sometimes if you're close to burnout, or if you're and it creates a cycle, doesn't it? So if you're near burnout, but then you need to do monotropism to try and get yourself out of burnout, and that's a whole thing.
hugely, and it feels a perpetual balancing, as if you're balancing on top of a Swiss ball. I think actually to sort those things out. I was kind of lucky coming here. So I forgot, as I always do forget, it's kind of a routine forgetting that the airport and the aeroplane would take spoons. But it was Newcastle Airport, which I know quite well, which is quite small. So that was mostly okay, apart from going through security and the security person. I suppose they don't think to say, what I'm now going to do is frisk you. They just do it. And I was a bit like, hello.
Did you
Um,
sunflower lanyard?
no, and I've written about
Oh,
this in my last Substack because
yes.
I once again completely forgot. And I think I packed as a writer. It's like, oh, I need my notebooks because I'm going on the writing retreat. I packed as a swimmer. Oh, I need two swimming costumes, even though I'm traveling light, one to dry, one to swimming. I did not pack as a neurodivergent person. And that's an error, and it's interesting. It somehow everything else was in my head, and that wasn't. And then I was in the airport thinking, oh, how have I forgotten again? And partly, and this was the thing. So I'll ask you about your being on your own at the gig.
Mm.
I was traveling with a friend and her friend who had told me about this town where I am and how it's kind of quiet and it would be a really good place for me to be. And they were originally just going to come to Portugal, but they had decided to come to the town as well for their first couple of nights here, which meant they'd offered me a lift in their rental car, which meant that actually, in terms of having to intensely think, where am I going, what am I doing, some of that was taken care of. So there was a bit more spoons in socialising, but happily we all sat separately on the aeroplane. Hurrah. So overall, slightly fewer spoons were needed through those tricky parts.
Mm.
And then I got here, and then it was just a case of making the home. So, and again, I have the paradox all the time of being with people uses spoons, actually. But at the same time, sometimes it can be co-regulating and give you spoons. So yeah, how was it, do you think, different for you being on your own last night?
So something that did happen is that it so happened that there were two very pleasant women about my age sat either side of me, and we talked and we chatted. And I don't mind a bit of small talk with random people. In fact, I quite like a random person. And I think obviously when you're going to a gig, you've got a point of like conversation. So that felt nice, and I think that's a lot more comfortable than when you sat down next to somebody and they like they don't speak to you, and they like the you feel the wall go up.
Yes, yeah.
And that's
Yeah, that balance, isn't it? Because I was sat next to it was funny. The thing that helped me most on the aeroplane was the white noise of the engines. And
right.
it was like a lovely blanket of snow over everything. So although there were a couple sat next to me, and I noticed that the man was kind of watching something on his screen and the woman was reading Take a Break for a little while, I did not get too drawn into the noticing. I did kind of tune them out. And I'm also quite happy to do small talk sometimes, but not for a 3-hour flight. Flipping it, you don't know what to get into there.
10 minutes before gig's fine, 3-hour flight, no.
No, exactly. So, but soon, it was horrible actually. When the engine noise stopped because we'd landed, and the landing bit is horrible. I don't know how everyone just seems to sit so calmly. And to me, the landing, it's so loud and violent. And it made me think of, heck,
I really struggle with the long decrease in pressure in your ears.
Yes.
Up's not so bad because it's quite quick.
Yeah.
A long descent, I find it painful, to be honest.
Yes, same. And then the white noise stops and everyone gets up all at once and it's chaos. And they're all looming and suddenly they're very noisy. And that was the point where I was like, oh, why have we still not sorted out the earphones thing? But anyway, I just sort of felt the panic and let it go, I suppose. But I can I'm like a goldfish, aren't I? I know that goldfish technically don't forget things every 7 seconds, but we'll pretend they do. So every time I'm going to an airport, I forget actually some of these experiences. But maybe that is why I am willing to go out of my comfort zone in that way. Do you know what I mean? If I remembered that very viscerally, as some people do, and certainly one autistic friend said to me, I just don't go to airports and I don't go on planes, I just forget as if it's childbirth.
Yeah.
Again, sorry, another thing I've never done. And actually that most people probably don't forget. Sorry, ignore all my analogies. I'm in an attention tunnel. That's my excuse. But yeah, that forgetting, which interestingly I know can be connected to trauma, you can kind of forget traumatic events and kind of blank them out a bit. That probably, and it's interesting that I'm only reaching that point as we come quite near the end of this podcast, but there is something in amnesia, voluntary or involuntary, that probably can allow you to go outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that there's something in that, and there's something in like weighing up. So you are obviously getting huge amounts out of being away and being near your pool and being in the environment that you're in, and it's obviously working out for you very, very well. But then sometimes to get to those places where the things are good, you've got to do the thing that's bad, which is very often get there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like get to your comfort zone. Ooh, getting to your comfort zone.
Yeah. There's big, yeah. And actually, I was about to say, with another terrible metaphor, but I'll go with it. Like, I'm quite looking forward to when Elon Musk invents or perfects the Hyperloop or a teleportation device. But actually, that is going to still be quite scary. You go wherever you go for the teleportation device and you think, oh yeah, all my matter is going to dematerialize now and rematerialize somewhere else. That's still not exactly utopia for traveling for autistic people, I don't think.
No, I feel sort of 1980s Star Trek about that, I think. I feel like I might still use a shuttle. I have talked about that though. Like I really wanted to take my youngest to the next Pink gig in Glasgow. And
Ah,
I
yeah.
think for the actual gig, if I could teleport them into the stadium, stay for the gig and teleport out, they could have coped with it. But that's not how it works. It would have been the getting into the stadium and getting there that they wouldn't have managed. And like how long you have to be in before and the crowds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it is often getting to the place that you need to be, isn't it? And including your comfort zone that can be really tricky.
Absolutely. So I suppose the sensible thing to do then is prepare as much as possible for the being out of your comfort zone while and kind of weigh up the benefits and
Yeah, the pros and the cons and the
yeah,
spoon cost.
and the spoon cost. And of course all these things are variable that might
Oh,
change along
absolutely.
the way anyway. But there is something around that. Hmm. And what you might do, hopefully, well, if you may, specifically, is you might get a poem out of these things. And actually, it was very conscious. So this morning, I was thinking, oh no, one of the things I've really enjoyed is having a completely free calendar. That's been
Mm.
really good. And although I was looking forward to recording our podcast, I was like, oh, I've got a thing in now. I've got a thing in
Demand.
schedule. I've got a demand,
What a
absolutely.
demand.
And it somehow was taking up brain space that otherwise
Mm.
had been freely wandering about. But then I thought, okay, this is the only thing in my brain space now. So luckily, since my poems need to be about neurodiversity anyway, I will write about it. I will write from it. So I'm just going to adjust my scarf for joy, and I will share this poem called Attention Tunnel. So it is, even I've never heard this poem. Just to let you know the terrible hardship that I endure sometimes. It was written on the beach this morning, overlooking a glittering sea.
Oh,
Um,
hard
yeah,
times.
and the upset, the trauma. So, Attention Tunnel. Don't pull me out of the attention tunnel where time collapses and scattered thoughts funnel. Don't pull me out of the attention tunnel. It's nothing personal about not liking you or the things you're inviting me to do, though you're not currently as interesting as the things in there. That is true. There's a toll to pay to enter here. But once I'm in, money, socks, and post disappear. Don't pull me out of the attention tunnel. It's like wrenching a barnacle from a rock. Sticky residue will stay behind. I'll only be left with half my mind. It's like interrupting any performer in the flow. Ronnie O'Sullivan lining up a championship shot. Oi, Ronnie, do you want to see this lovely new cardigan I just got? Simone Biles in quadruple axel poise. Hey, Simone, what do you think of Guatemalan independence and boys? David Tennant at the RSC about to Hamletly ask to be or not to be. David, David, it's time for your tea. Don't pull us out of the attention tunnel where our minds and bodies for once are in sync, where a laser beam can focus and can think. The pain of pulling awareness back like a turtle's neck into its shell retracting. Don't take us out of the tunnel of, oh, what was it? I forgot. Too late. My attention, your attention rather, is distracting.
Thanks for tuning in to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws. We're so glad you joined us today to explore the fascinating world of neurodivergence with your hosts, me, Nic King.
And me, Kate Fox. If our conversation sparked a thought, a question, or even a smile, don't keep it to yourself. Drop us a line at hello@neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk or visit our website, neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk, to write in. We'd love to hear from you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform.
Until next time, keep embracing the unique ways you juggle the chainsaws of life.